Hey everybody, this is Rick from pseudosamurai.com, and today I'm starting my tutorial series of how to make a game from scratch. And I'm starting my videos off with actually the brainstorming. It's not so much a tutorial, but I just want to go through the process of how I'm going to put together my game. I think there's a lot of value in brainstorming, and it's real easy to go, I know how to brainstorm, or there's no real value. I know what I want to make in my head, or it's real easy to dismiss the whole brainstorming idea. Okay, but there is some value. I think you can come up with some good ideas that your sort of instinctual brain, your instant thought would overlook. But when you put a little more effort and time into it, it fleshes out the idea a little bit more. Okay, so often in games, I'll see something that's really clever or interesting, and I'll just wonder, how did they come up with that? That's so brilliant, but it's such a leap in ideas that it wouldn't have never occurred to me. So anyway, I think there's some value in brainstorming. Okay, so what I'm going to do is whoops. We'll start with a character here. Okay. We'll zoom in just a little. Not too much. Oh, having issues here. So, making a game. What is this game about, right? So, I have my character and my story. Okay, so what I'm going to start with is just the kind of basic idea. A lot of times a game will just start from one idea. Okay, I happen to name my website Pseudo Samurai. I don't know why exactly. I just think samurais are cool, and I like the way it rolled off the tongue and whatever. So that's why I'm going to start. I'm going to make a game about a samurai. My main character, he's going to be a samurai. So I'm going to start with the idea of a samurai. Right? Okay, and I'm going to start kind of thinking about ideas having to do with samurai. So, rural Japan, kind of a location. I also think of ninjas. I think of Ronin. And Ronin, in case you don't know, are samurais without a master. It kind of looks like Bonin. But samurais without master, that makes me think of a master. And I think of weapons, which also makes me think of armor. I also think of honor, because the culture was very honor bound, right? Master makes me think of like a shogun, and then I think of like a warlord and an emperor. Let's see. Weapons, I think of swords. Ninjas make me think of ninja stars, which I'm not going to write ninja stars. We'll go with the name shuriken, because that's what they're called. Shuriken. What else? Okay, so that's just a good start. Okay, and it doesn't take very long, but you take a few minutes, you start fleshing out ideas, and you might make some links that get you ideas that you might not have never thought of. So our brain is kind of like this pattern machine, and it's going to think, it kind of thinks the same thoughts over and over. It takes certain input, and it always kind of produces something else. So it helps to bounce ideas off of other people, but it also helps to bounce ideas off yourself, right? So, if I didn't think of shuriken, I might have never thought of, if I never thought of ninjas, I might never thought of shuriken, and throwing stars are pretty cool. So maybe I want that in the game, but it would have never happened if I didn't think of ninjas or something like that. Okay, so I kind of started with my central idea of samurai. So obviously that's sort of my main character or whatever. But let's see if we can make a story with just this kind of basic idea, right? So I am a samurai, and I start thinking about kind of honor and my master. Maybe my master is kidnapped, right? For whatever reason. Maybe the emperor is evil, and he took my master, right? And if I don't rescue him, I'm going to dishonor my whole family, right? So I have to rescue my master, So I need to go after the emperor, right? And the emperor has an army of ninjas and warlords and other samurai or ronin that I have to fight against. And I'm going to have to use various weapons and armor to get where I'm going. Okay, so that's kind of a basis, like a basic idea of a story. But that's a fine premise, especially for a simple game like I want to make. I want to make a little mobile game, something you can play on your phone. I don't want it too in depth, so it's going to be a casual game. So that's a fine story. My master was stolen. I gotta rescue him, and I gotta fight wave after wave of martial arts themed enemies, and I'm gonna use martial arts themed armor and swords and weapons to beat him up. Okay, that's a start. That's fine. So next, we might think about sort of the game. Okay, so I know right away. We'll start with the center idea again as a side-scrolling. Whoops. So side-scroller. Okay. Now there are a lot of different side-scrolling games, so maybe I can think of platforming or a brawler. Right, so like Double Dragons or something versus Mario. Okay, and what happens in platform games? You have like jumping puzzles. What else? Secrets. Sometimes there's like secret areas. Coins. A brawler, you might have something like health. And just fighting tons of dudes, so lots of fighting. Depending on the game, you can have progression elements, so like RPG stuff. Right? So, just thinking about this, what kind of game do I want to make? Now, you can't copyright game mechanics, right? So, long before there was an Angry Birds, there was some sort of slingshot game. That idea's been around for a long time. Same with, like, Match 3. So, you have games like Bejeweled, and then you have games like, there's a I think it's a dungeon-based Match 3 game where you fight guys or defend yourself and collect. It takes the same idea but twists it a little bit. And you could copy mechanics straight up, but what makes your game special? Why is yours different? So sometimes it's mashing different genres together, or sometimes it's a story or the graphics or whatever that'll make your game stand out. But in the end, you want to make, you don't want to just copy something you've seen. You want to make something new, something that's why are people going to play your game? Okay. So from here, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, simple game. Part of the problem is jumping puzzles, right? Like a D-pad and button setup on a phone can work, but it's not the greatest setup. So how can I get rid of that? Well, I was playing a game called Jetpack Joyride, and it has one button, the whole screen on your phone. So here's your phone, it's sideways. Here's our little home button and whatever. Wherever you touch the screen, it's a button, and it just makes you essentially fly, right? But it's a pretty fun game. For one button, one input, they managed to make a pretty awesome game. Okay, and one of the things they did was they removed the need for a direction pad, right? You don't need that. The game handles movement. It's just continuously scrolling. You have your level or whatever, and it just keeps on scrolling, that way. So those arrows are terrible, by the way. I mean, just bad. I'm a little ashamed of them. I should fix them, but I'm not gonna. Anyway, so get rid of that. So I just have a continuous side-scrolling game. And I like RPG elements. And obviously Samurai are going to be doing some more fighting, so maybe I don't want jumping puzzles. But I like the idea of secrets, maybe, and coins, and health. So maybe I can combine all these ideas and combine it with this idea and see if I can come up with something, right? So maybe I want a continuously side-scrolling game that has all those elements, and instead of one button on my phone or whatever, I'll split the screen in half, and I'll have like a jump button and then an attack button. Okay, so I don't think that's too complicated. It's a pretty simple controller scheme, but I'll have jump and attack, and then I'll see if I can incorporate health and all my other bits. Okay, so by going through this process, you can flesh out not the story and not the characters, but the kind of game you're building, and how you can make it unique and interesting, different than the normal. Okay, so we'll move on to the next step, and this is sort of gameplay. I want to brainstorm how I can make my gameplay interesting and different. Okay, so I just talked about two buttons, right? I have my phone layout. So here's my home button. So we have a jump and attack. Okay, so that's the idea. Well, right away I think double jump, right? And that leads me to think of kind of double tap on my attack, right? So maybe if I double tap, I do a different attack than the normal, right? Or maybe I could do a jump attack, or attack and jump, or jump and double attack, whatever it is, right? So even though I don't have two buttons, I can kind of come up with some interesting ideas for gameplay. But one of the benefits of doing this is if I just started the game and halfway through I go, I should incorporate a double tap. Well, suddenly I have different animation and coding requirements, and that could set me back. I mean, that could break some other parts of the game. That could it could just cause problems. So by going through this process, I can kind of foresee that, well, if I want this in the game, I'm going to need to figure out a solution for a double tap for jumping and attack, which would be some sort of time count, like a timer after a button press. Right? So I just have to be aware. That's something I might have to make in my game in order to get this functionality. So, just going through this process helps me flesh out different ideas, but also helps me kind of see into the future and predict problems or issues that might come up. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but already I can think of some good ideas. Like if I have different weapons equipped, it'll change the attack, which will require more animation. Right? And then also I like the idea of unlocking these skills. So unlock, almost like a Legend of Zelda type thing, where you could acquire a new weapon that allows you to do certain things to progress differently in the level, or get through the levels differently. So that's interesting. Okay. Also, back here in my game, when I was talking about continuous side scroller, now I have to think about how I build my levels, right? So instead of just building, a level with a start and a finish, right? And you've got your little platforms and whatever. How am I going to solve this? Because this wouldn't work very well for a continuous scroller, unless this level was super duper long. It just kept going. Or maybe I'll build small little pieces of levels, and then in code I will just kind of tack it on to the end of the level when they get close to the end. And so it's infinite, right? The level can just keep going, and all I need to do is build these little pieces of levels that can stick together, right? Or maybe just a repeating background that goes forever, like a space game. You've got a little guy who flies and he shoots at bad guys, whatever. Those kind of games, they just have one background that just sort of loops around. After it goes through, it just loops back. So going through this process, you start fleshing out your game and making more sense of it logistically. You understand your story, you come up with new ideas for everything along the way, and you're able to predict problems in the future, or think about some of the resources you're going to need, or some of the coding you're going to have to do to make all this work together the right way. I think it's a valuable process. It's it doesn't take very long. Sit down, take an hour, and just work through it. And like I said before, bouncing ideas off of somebody else could help you come up with new ideas. They may say something that triggers something in you, and then suddenly you go, oh, that makes me think of this. And then they go, oh, that makes me think of this. And pretty soon you have an idea that's connected to the original core, but is unique and interesting and different. And someone will play your game and go, how did they think of that? I don't understand. It's brilliant, or it's so creative. So there is some value in brainstorming. And if you want to do something, you might as well do it right. If you just want to learn and you just want to pump out a game, clone another game that you like to learn things or whatever. But if you want to make a game that you want other people to play and enjoy, put some effort into the forethought and the pre-process of making a game, and it'll make your finished product a lot better. So there you go. There's my little spiel on brainstorming. Hopefully that was a helpful video and you got something from it. If you liked it, be sure to hit like or subscribe. Next time I'm going to be going over a game design document. I know it sounds boring, but a lot of this pre-production stuff will make the production a lot easier. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys next time.